Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a strategic breakdown video, and we're going to be talking about seekers, and specifically ways seekers can affect the game without just actively trying to catch a snitch. So I don't know too much about the seeking game, so I brought on one of the most knowledgeable people I know on the subject, Tufts University coach and seeker Greg Bento. Greg, thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here, Ethan.
So, like I said, we're going to be talking about kind of some of the things that seekers can do besides trying to catch a snitch, and I feel like it's a really overlooked part of the game. Have you kind of felt that way over time as well?
Yeah, I feel like, especially when I first started seeking, the only thing you're ever really told or taught is just like different moves to do on a snitch to make the catch. But I think there's a lot more the seekers can be doing on the field that affects the game than they realize.
Yeah, and I've definitely realized that over time coaching alongside Max Havlin. He definitely gets very frustrated when seekers aren't doing enough to help his beaters, and I'm sure as someone who's seeked while Max has beat that you've definitely felt that a few times through the years.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff I learned just by having Max yell at me a whole bunch. But
for sure. No, that's totally reasonable. So yeah, so this is going to be some tips on a way a seeker can improve their game without just catching a snitch, so let's get into it. The first two concepts we're going to kind of group together because they're both generally in situations where there's active in-range snitch on pitch play going on, and you're kind of trying to maximize your chances to catch at times where you're not just actively engaging with the snitch necessarily. And the first thing I think we touched on a lot because we said Max Havlin definitely kind of gets on us about these things is working with your beaters. So first thing you put down is kind of talking with your beaters and coordinating your attack. So how actively are you communicating with your beaters throughout a snitch on pitch situation?
I think it depends, like, who your beaters are. A lot of the times, like, when I play with Max, I'm not doing a lot of talking, but that's because Max is literally directing me every single time, like, he's on the pitch with me. I think when I just say talk with your beaters and try to attack at the same time is, like, you see a lot of times where you see, like, beaters go make a play for control around the snitch while the seeker is tagging up, and then vice versa, the seeker gets there and their beaters all running back to hoops, and it just becomes this endless loop of people running back and forth, and you don't really get an advantage. But if you talk with your beaters and you all decide to attack at the same time, it forces the other team's beaters to either make a play on you or make a play on your beaters.
So then your second point is about seekers purposely taking beats, and I see so many seekers that if there's a beater from the other team anywhere near the snitch, they just kind of freeze up about 10 feet, maybe 15 feet away from the seeker play and just kind of try to wait for it to resolve itself. So you're kind of advising for sometimes taking a more active approach. So how can a seeker go about doing that?
Yeah, so it goes directly with the first one. So if you're attacking at the same time with your beaters, and I know we teach this a lot at Tufts, like if your beaters tell you to just go for it, right? They're just trying to get the other team's beaters to throw a bludger at you, get bludgers on the ground, right? It's a lot easier for them to make a play for control when their other beaters are forced to turn their attention onto you.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of turning that attention, you're talking about attacking from different angles, so what do you like that to look like?
Yeah, so this is something I do and a lot of the Tufts seekers do too, but I will literally run to the other side of the pitch and like almost to the other team's keeper zone and attack from that angle. Because the beaters usually try to create a wall around the snitch, right? Usually on your half of the field. But if your beaters are attacking from one direction and you're coming in from the other direction, it forces their beaters to either split or they have to pick one attention. They can't really have both beaters doing both of those situations, and they're forced to make decisions that they don't normally make.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a fringe benefit of it is that even sometimes a snitch will lose track of you, and maybe that's only 1 in 1,000 times, but that's one more catch than you would have made otherwise,
Yeah, I've made a catch or two in my time just by doing this and just coming up behind. The snitch doesn't usually expect it, so if their beaters are focusing on your beaters, you just come in for a quick grab.
So these second steps are more about kind of positioning while you're actively seeking, so when you are kind of getting those opportunities. So the first one is forcing snitches towards your hoops. And I feel like a lot of people do this, but I definitely understand why you put it up here because I don't see it enough. So just kind of explain the basics of what you're getting at here.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is, like, as you're approaching the snitch, try to, like, if they're on the midline, go past the midline and then come in so that they're backing up towards your hoops as you're engaging with them. It just makes it easier for your beaters to get there around the snitch. If they stay there and you get beat out, you're running less distance. Their seekers are running more distance. It's just small things that give you a little bit of advantage.
And the second one is something that I've been trying to work a lot on with my seeker recently, Leo Fried. Avoid engaging the snitch from the opposite side as the opposing seeker. I feel like this is something that definitely creates more coin flip situations than I would like, especially when you have good beaters. So kind of go into a little bit of what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times where you see two seekers run in from two different angles, and then the snitch has to just shoot the gap between the two.
Right.
And they usually end up spinning into one of the seekers, and it's literally just a coin flip at that point. Yeah. Like, if they turn into your side, like, great, like, you're able to make that catch, but there's just as much chance they turn into the other seeker. And like I said, it's just, like, if you have a good seeker and good beaters and think you can make a catch, there's no point risking something like this.
Yeah, for sure. And this last one is something I've never spent that much time thinking about, but I think now that you write it down, I definitely see where you're coming from. So moving into more advantageous positions during the 3-second countdown to pursue a down switch. So basically, you're not allowed to pursue the snitch in those 3 seconds. So you can't get any closer, but you can change the angle you're coming from, right? So you can basically make the most use out of those 3 seconds.
Yeah, like I said, if there's the snitches down and you're at the hoops, like, you can't just run in a straight line towards the snitch, but you can start, like, taking the opposite angle to the opposite side of the pitch near midfield, right?
Right.
Like, you could still just try to get a better angle for you to attack on next. You could start moving around to the other side of the field, like we mentioned in that first slide, where you can attack from a different angle as your beaters. It's just like, usually you just see seekers just freeze, right, during that 3-second count, and none of them move. But, like, you can also just, if you see beaters coming, you could back up so you're not just getting beat out as soon as you take a step forward.
Right.
There's just so many different things you can be doing in those 3 seconds than just standing still.
Yeah, and so many people just automatically freeze as though it is, like, the only option they have. I've definitely seen it a million times. So let's get into some actual in-game scenarios and talk about what seekers are doing well or not doing well in them. All right, so our first clip is from BU Tufts at this year's Northeast Regionals. This game was in overtime at this point. We're at the beginning of Snitch on Pitch, and we're just going to run it through and talk about some of the things we see.
Yep. So seekers are just coming out now. So watch Kit right here. He immediately kind of
did a little bit of a block there to keep HBB out of the situation.
Right. Yeah. He was not trying to attack from a different angle. He got in between. It's a lot harder for HBB to make a catch just because there's another body in the way of him.
Yeah, I think a lot of seekers there shoot if they're Kit, and if he shoots there, it creates one of those 50-50 situations you were talking about.
Yeah. If you didn't notice...
Oh, you can go back, yep.
Yeah, so watch, like, HBB is going to tag hoops here, and just runs down the middle of the field and comes around, right?
Yeah.
These two beaters don't even know and almost gets a catch there.
Yeah, it was. The beaters were very lucky the snitch noticed at the last second because that was begging to be a catch.
Yeah.
And to be clear, Kit is the BU seeker and HBB is the tough seeker.
Yes, and that was another situation, right?
We can go back again.
Go back real quick.
Yep.
This is like, watch, like both seekers are attacking from two different angles right now.
Right.
And as they come in, right, HBB almost gets a catch. But because of that, the snitch just turns his back to Kit, and if Kit was a little bit more aware, I think he could have made a pull there, which is why I don't necessarily like that attacking from two different angles. I think Tufts did get lucky where the Tufts beaters were making a play at that exact same time. Kit didn't really get a chance, but. Right, and like, where is Kit in this situation, right? Their beaters are trying to make plays for control.
And he's just standing outside the play.
He's off the field, right? He's not helping his beaters because he needs to be splitting the beater's attention. So right now their beater is probably doing just like what I was saying, what the Seekers should do, just attack from the other side of the field, right? So that it forced the Tufts beaters to split, which is like the same general idea.
Right. But he wasn't really getting help from his other beater, or like if Kit goes in there and one of the beaters has to throw, maybe his other beater can pick up the ball and get control out of it. But Kit never really went.
Right, and I think this is just going to be a catch right here.
Yep. Yep. So basically, all the stuff you were talking about, taking different angles, not taking risks, just create 50-50s, and also working with your beaters. The team who was working with their beaters there basically just got more chances. Because I don't think Tufts necessarily had more bludger control over the course of that, but Tufts was more active with it and more active at trying to get it back.
Yeah, and it's just, again, just like Kit was just off the screen for most of that, right? And like he needs to make a move, try to like pull the Tufts beaters into just making a throw so that the BU beaters can make a play.
For sure. All right, so the second clip is also from Northeast Regionals. This is Tufts against Harvard. Tufts, when we're referring to Seeker, will be HBB again. Harvard Seeker for most of it's Leo Freed. So let's roll the tape. This is another snitch range game, I think pretty close to even. I will note that one thing that Harvard did purposely at the beginning of this play is hold a long offensive possession on the Tufts half so that the Tufts beaters had to stand near their hoops and Harvard's beaters could get to the Seeker first, just for that one early tap beat.
Yeah, Seeker's coming in right now. Notice how HBB again came from
the Harvard side of the
field, right?
And Leo didn't specifically on either of these first couple tries.
Yeah. Again, here HBB coming around, but like see how he comes around onto this side of the field, but he never attacks the snitch from a different angle, right? He tries to swoop in and get in between Leo and the snitch.
Right. So now Harvard's getting control, trying to set up those boxes. We're going to get a stoppage here. And we'll see how HBB attacks it.
Yes. See, he's...
Leo finally goes to the right side, the way we were talking about.
Yeah, he goes to the right side, and now the snitch is going to start backing up towards the Harvard hoops, right? The snitch kind of just stands still. You'll literally, at this moment... you hear Serena just scream, HBB go now, right?
Mm-hmm. We can watch that one more time.
Yeah, she's screaming, like, go, go, go. And then as soon as that happens, the beaters are going, right? And they're trying to make a play for control. And, like, they get a whole bunch of bludgers on the ground. Soup and Addie just do a good job cleaning it up. Yeah,
I mean, the only reason this is working is because Max has drilled our beaters on this a million times. And HBB almost gets a catch there off of all that craziness. Addie was just able to recover fast enough to get that tap.
Oh yeah, that was an incredible beat by Addie.
Yeah.
but like just bludgers on the ground, and like notice how long like it took for Harvard to get back into this position, right?
Yeah,
HBB had time to tag hoops and get back to the snitch and almost make a catch.
Exactly.
At this point, Leo should just go off broom, right? Like you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get yourself off broom, reset. That wasn't really a point we brought up, but. If you're stuck in a situation like that, you're not going to pull your broom out. Again, I like that, like Leo and not trying to attack from a different angle as HBB there. Even though I said like attack from a side that forces the snitch in your direction, but if our Seeker is doing that, the Tufts Seeker is doing that, Leo doesn't want to like split the snitch's attention.
Makes sense.
And again, there's just more situations. The Tufts beaters are just telling HBB, just like, hey, go get Harvard's bludgers on the ground because we're not winning these beater battles.
That was an unfortunate one where HBB went to shoot and Aiden just threw his bludger right off of him.
I mean, yeah, it happens. I mean, it's so crazy. You just feel a bludger as a Seeker and you just go back to hoops. You don't know who's throwing any of this stuff.
Yeah, and from a beater mindset, one thing that our beaters are doing this entire game is defining roles to each other with communication. Someone's always watching the Seeker and someone's always watching the live bludger while they have bludger control.
Yeah. I don't know how much they're talking with Leo about anything.
Probably not that much.
Yeah. Again, like they should be talking with Leo. Leo should be talking with them. Now you have, who's this? Jesse?
Jesse, and yep.
has just like such a big bubble around.
Yeah.
I think we sub out.
Yeah,
HBB subs out. Yeah, Harry Queenie. He doesn't seek that much. We don't really work with him a lot, but you just see him. He's just running in without any beater support, right? And he just like runs in, gets beat, runs back.
Right, like this is just a free beat for Soup.
Yeah, the Tufts beaters aren't in the play yet, so they're just free beats for Soup. And that's where it comes down to just like talk. Like you can take 2 seconds, catch your breath even, and then just get back in there when your beaters are ready to make a play.
Yep.
And again, like Harry Queenie again just runs in with both his beaters just on the rack. He was a little bit smarter and backed up.
Yeah, that was better
right?
for him. But that's still too free of a beat. Like you should never be taking a beat there that can't do anything for anybody. Yeah,
if he was smart, he would have literally just run all the way to the other side of the field, right?
Right.
Attack from a different angle while the Tufts seekers or Tufts beaters are tagging up.
Yep. Because then, like you said, now Tufts is in that just constant rotation again. This is going to end up in a catch. But yeah, you could see the way that Serena got beat out there. So again, he's coming in with no bludger.
Yeah, I think this is just super unfortunate where Soup kind of just makes this beat on Thomas, right? And just the ball bounces just too far where he can't just pick it up immediately.
Yeah, and I think Addie was just also a slight second to react slow on her positioning. Like,
but like even though Tufts makes this catch here, I'm not a huge fan because again, you see both Tufts beaters are tagging up, and like this situation works out because both Tufts beaters like they got the Harvard bludgers on the ground, and he's able to just be quick enough to get in there.
Right. And also worth noting in this point that the reason you do all these things and keep making these attempts is because these beaters, there's no harder minutes for a beater to play than snitch on pitch beating. They're running around so much. And like when you get exhausted, you're going to make the occasional mental mistake. So you want to maximize their chances to make those mental mistakes. And in this case, it was just a very small one.
It was also super unfortunate where
the snitch
was telling Leo he wasn't beat and stuff like that. Like, you really do hate to see it, but, I mean, Tufts won that game, so I can't complain too much.
All right, let's do one more clip. All right, and the last video we're going to look at for this segment is, at this point, I feel like a bit on this channel that you have to talk about the Lone Star QCB game from US Quidditch Cup 9, or you're not really doing a video on this channel. But this is going to be a new angle, because I don't think we've really ever gone over the snitch on pitch portion of it. So let's get into it. Snitch are about to be released. I believe that Harry Greenhouse is starting seeking for QC Boston.
Yeah, Harry is like, a lot of people know him as like this really good seeker, but I think people underestimate how smart of a seeker Harry is. Like, he is someone I talk to a lot about this strategy, right? And he, like, just like on that run up, like,
we can go back, yeah.
Yeah, like he's not sprinting out there, right? He's just trying to. I think, does Lone Star have control right now?
They don't know. Max is picking up the second bludger, I believe.
Max is picking up the second bludger, right? But like he's being like conservative with his energy. He realizes like his beaters are trying to set up a wall for him. Like he's not going to just run in there, risk the snitch turning into the
right.
seeker.
It's the same thing we saw with Kit in that BU game from game 1, right? Like he didn't want to do a full-on run-up that was going to react in a 50-50. He'd rather give the other seeker one quick shot that would surely get cleaned up by bludgers, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, Harry does coach Kit, so
yeah, exactly.
Easy to see the similar philosophies in there, right? That was just a miss by both seekers, both running in, bludgers flying everywhere.
I was gonna say that was a much worse route there from Harry to just run right into, I think that's Savannah Allison.
Yeah, but like the snitch does a good job recognizing and getting out of that situation. But like you see him make a fist pump because he knows that two seekers coming in at two different angles is just an absolute mess.
Yep.
And watch, but Harry is the master of this. Every single time he gets to the snitch, right? He gets on the other half of the field and forces the snitch onto his half.
Yep.
Every single time he engages with the snitch, that's what he does. Oh, Jesse can't miss that beat there.
Yeah, you can see me on the sideline getting really angry about that and immediately pulling Jesse out of the game.
Then, like, again, Harry's like, he's being smart about like waiting for the right engages, right?
Right.
It seems like he was just standing there trying to draw a beat, and then Kyle was able to clean that up.
And again, get right-siding the snitch and going after him from there.
Yep.
Harry,
look how deep already the snitch is. He's like almost to the keeper zone, right?
Right.
Like if Harry gets off room or beat right here, like he's running so much less distance than like the Lone Star Seeker has to get all the way up there. And even though the snitch is going to move back, right? Yeah. Like that's just less distance you have to travel. That's less energy you're spending.
Yeah. And the Lone Star Beater has to now throw at Kyle within QCB's own zone, which means even if Gian gets beat, he has a shorter run back to his hoops. If the Lone Star Beater gets beat, he has a longer run back to his hoops. It's all those little things. Also, Harry's always been a master at not wasting time on his... Like, he took 3 shots, I think, during that one little run back. I think you saw the Lone Star Seeker a couple times kind of getting engaged with the snitch and taking, up to 5-6 seconds before he even took a shot.
Yeah.
Lone Star did switch out. I think it's Stevie Bell who's in the game now at Seeker.
Yeah, I think there's a physical card here.
Nope, a little too far.
Yeah. Right, and like watch Harry's approach in this one. He literally just runs up to the beater. Yeah. Like he's purposely taking that beat. I'm pretty sure Max is probably telling him like, hey, just take this beat, make this beater like get a bludger on the ground or slightly out of position. Yeah. Because like as soon as that happens, Max is ready to attack.
And Harry, you can see he actually does the most with this tap beat. If you watch, he turns around on it so that he actually blocks the beater from the ball for a second. And you can say it's just like accidental, but I know Harry, and that's not accidental. He's purposely put his body there.
Harry thinks about every single motion that he's making.
Right. So he put his body in between him and the beater, which gave Max enough time for a free beat and recovery of the ball.
Right? They create that bludger, but I think this is where Harry catches, right?
It is.
Like, he gains this opportunity because he took that beat in the last one.
Exactly. And that's going to be a clean catch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I think Seekers don't really think about that concept of, like, if I take this beat now, I'm going to have a better shot on the next play, right? They kind of only think about, like, this is my shot to make a catch right now. If I get beat, it's a whole other thing, even though it's the exact same game.
Right, and that's why a lot of Seekers kind of stay out, like we were seeing Kit do in that first game, rather than just kind of constantly engaging and taking those beats.
Yeah.
So the last point we're going to kind of drive home today on what you can do besides just catching snitches as a Seeker is effective Seeker defending. So Seeker defending, I think a lot of people think of it as, it's just kind of a thing you have to do when your team is being blown out and you get stuck in this situation. But there's a lot more to it than that. So the first point you drive home is that it can be used both in range and out of range. And I think the Southwest has been doing this really well for a while. So talk a little bit to that.
Yeah, it's something I first noticed World Cup 8, that UT team that ended up winning, is that every time that the other Seeker was anywhere near the snitch, they would completely stop trying to make a catch and just kind of defensive seek. It's something that it kind of goes with the whole don't engage the snitch and create those 50-50s. It's taking it a little bit to the extreme, but again, like if the other team has a really good Seeker and you don't want to risk any kind of stuff, I know it's something we talked about a lot on Riders last year, right? With the whole new endgame system, that defensive seeking might be more relevant than it used to be.
For sure. So when you are defensive seeking, whether in or out of range, you mentioned that a lot of people kind of only use their arms. So tell us a bit about what is legal and kind of the way to maximize that.
Yeah, so body blocking and just stiff arming and stuff is legal. You can't, I think a single arm push might be legal.
Yeah, just no wraps.
You can't wrap, right? And a lot of people I see, they just have one arm up. They kind of either just kind of like stiff arm, but it kind of, you're condensing yourself just to one single point, and it's a lot easier to get around. Or they try to use their arm and they end up just wrapping the other Seeker and getting called back to hoops. Right. And I always say, like, use as much of your body as possible. I always compare it to boxing out, like in basketball, right? Like butt to gut, you spread yourself out wide. It's a much harder angle for people to get past, and if you're getting your body onto the other person, they can't get momentum to get past you either.
And then the last thing you mentioned is being aware of where the snitch is and what they're doing. So go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so like I said, I like to use the box out method where like I'm facing the snitch, right? I can see everywhere they're going on the field. There's a few examples I see where the person is just standing facing the other seeker. They have just like one arm outstretched towards them, and the snitch will just run to the opposite side of the field, and the defensive seeker doesn't notice for 2-3 seconds, and at that point the other seeker is beating them to it since they were looking at the snitch. I'm not saying you always have to be boxing out like that, but just try to keep aware, because also snitches like to pull your broom out, do other things like that. You don't want to be caught off guard by the snitch just like pulling you off broom and giving the seeker a chance.
For sure. So let's look at a couple examples. All right, so this is from the MQC opener this year between Harvard and BU, and this game is out of range in favor of Harvard. The Harvard seeker is Jesse Thu right here. Kit Panpar is the seeker for BU, and we're going to see the way that Kit defensive seeks.
Right. I like how Kit goes and engages himself with the other seeker, right? Mm-hmm. I think I see a lot of defensive seekers that kind of just hang out by the snitch.
Right.
Kit is using his entire body there. He's boxing out. Like when you box out like in basketball, attack from behind, it's also easier for the other seeker to get sent back to hoops for like back contact and stuff like that. But the whole time, Kit is actively trying to get his body in between the snitch and the other seeker.
Yeah, and he spreads his body so wide as well when he's doing that to make it even harder for a seeker to get around him.
Again, there's Kit using his entire body, spreading wide. He's alternating between facing the seeker and facing away from the other seeker. Like he's pivoting, which creates just even more, just like more of a wall for the other seeker to try to get around.
For sure.
Yeah, Kit again just getting his whole body in the way rather than just an arm. Kit doesn't give up, right? He's and like look how far away this snitch get, and he does not give Leo any sort of space, right? He keeps his body on him. And they're both facing the snitch. Kit knows exactly where the snitch is. He knows exactly where Leo is because he's literally touching him, right? Just textbook defensive seeking.
Yeah, on our sideline at this point, we're telling Leo not to waste energy fighting through the seeking.
Yes, that's something I tell a lot of seekers too, is you can waste so much energy trying to get around a good defensive seeker. By the time when you do, where your beaters clear them out, you're too tired to make that catch. Like, it's good to make like 1-2 jukes around, see if you can get something, but like as soon as you're wasting a whole bunch of time, it's just not worth it. And
you just want to lengthen your offensive possessions and use those opportunities to beat out the defensive seeker.
Yeah.
Which I think Addy will go do right now. Yep.
Yep.
And that's the catch.
That's the catch.
Exactly. So yeah.
Look how energetic Leo was able to come in just because he was just standing there, like catching his breath while waiting for the beaters to beat him out.
Exactly. So we wanted to show a clip from that UT Lone Star game that Greg was talking about as well. So this is UT in range. You can see Lone Star is beginning to engage with the snitch and watch the UT seeker as he's only looking to block and not at all looking to make a catch.
Right, yeah. Immediately comes in and just starts defensive seeking.
Yeah.
I like that. Is just like not letting Lone Star catch. He knows that his beaters are going to come and clean up at some point, and that he would rather wait for his beaters to clean up so he can make a clean attempt without Lone Star interfering, rather than risking that 50-50 situation.
Yeah, I've also seen sometimes, you saw for a second there, he kind of got into a stance like he was considering shooting. I've seen sometimes people use that as a bluff, right? Because Lone Star never wants to shoot at that point, like over the back and force a snitch. So it's kind of still delaying. And you can see that Gregoire here almost kind of backs off of it for a second.
Yeah, no, like if there's a lot of mental game with the snitch, right? And if you fake him out and if Stu relaxed just because he thought you were exclusively defensive seeking, like maybe make a dive in there. But like again, I like the idea of just not risking the snitch in a 50-50 situation while you're both there and the beaters weren't there for a decent amount of time, right?
Right.
It's a little more calculated. Like, that's why this UT team was very good. Like, they didn't take unnecessary risks.
Yeah, and they thought they had the better beaters, and they probably did, and that's how it ended up when all was said and done.
Yeah.
All right, so that's about going to do it for this video. So, Greg, if you kind of had any overall arcing themes that you just want people to take away from this video, what would it be?
I'm just guessing that Seekers, I think they could do a lot more to influence the game than a lot of them realize. So if you're a Seeker out there and you're looking to improve your game, biggest thing I say is just work with your beaters, make sure you're going at the same time.
Awesome. All right, well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Greg, thank you so much for coming on. Please like and subscribe, and you take care.